angels waging war in the unseen realm. Global events fulfilling biblical prophecy. Eternal life. What lies beyond mortality? From analyzing the paranormal from a biblical worldview to the discussion of cutting-edge science and technology, conspiracy, discovery, special investigative reports. Unafraid to explore the challenging issues facing humanity. Welcome to another edition of Skywatch TV.
The internet is a wonderful tool. It's a window onto the best and worst of humanity. Welcome to Skywatch TV. I'm Derek Gilbert. That means, of course, that most of us and our children and our grandchildren have an open window onto some of the very worst of humanity 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Our guest has been combating this and the way that some of the dregs of humanity have been preying upon our children and grandchildren. She is the president and CEO of MillionKids.org, the director of development for Rafa House International, and the outreach coordinator for the Riverside County, California's Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force. She's also the author of an important book, Seduced: The Grooming of America's Teenagers. We welcome Opal Singleton to the program.
Thank you.
Opal. And I'm remiss in mentioning that in studio also is my best friend and wife, Sharon K. Gilbert. So forgive me for that.
Oh, no, that's okay.
Dive right into the topic.
I want to jump right in because I sat here and watched you guys do a couple of updates that have already aired. So if you didn't get a chance to watch those, make sure you do. They are web-only exclusives, but trust me, the content of these shows is going to be so compelling. I was sitting over there crying, thinking about the kids that you're talking about. They are so incredibly vulnerable, but they don't think they are. They think they're superhuman.
Technology has transformed the way we interact with the world. Opal, how are predators using the technology that we take for granted, our smartphones, our tablets, our laptops? How are they using those devices to get to our kids?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. This is an absolute epidemic, what's going on here. It's a fascinating thing that is happening. I want you to think about your lives, our lives, in just the last 5 years and all the changes that have happened. You know, we really are at a unique time in history. We have never, ever been there before. And I think that it might be one of the most exciting times to be alive. It's an exciting time to be a parent, and it's an exciting time to be a teenager. But it's also probably one of the most threatening and one of the riskiest times. Maybe I should qualify that I work in human trafficking. I sit with parents who are missing their kids because they've ran off with some guy they met on the internet. I often sit with kids who are being sextorted or blackmailed because they've got lured into having a photo there. So I'm deeply involved in this. And the reason that I wrote my book, the reason that I'm involved in this, is to be able to educate parents and grandparents and school officials, pastors, all across America, how this works and how to keep them safe. Let me back up a minute and kind of share with you, just from a social media standpoint, some of how this all looks. I'll share with you that I was speaking at a church conference, which I do a lot of, and it was an interesting experience because in this particular church on a Saturday, all the parents sat on one side and all the kids sat on the other. I thought, what am I into here? What is going on with these people? And there was like this wide aisle in the middle. And so I said to the parents, I said, tell me what social media you're using. It was a riot. One of them was, it was Facebook and Instagram. One was crushing candy. Oh. I kid you not. One was playing Farmville. You know, they felt so technical. You know?
Yeah.
And then I said to the kids, well, now what are you on? And they were on Instagram, Facebook. One was Tango, Tinder, Tumblr, Flickr, Uvu, Omegle, and Poof. I mean, it was
I haven't heard of half of them.
I know. I mean, I'm standing there thinking, this is like a foreign language, you know?
Well, and this is startling for us because we haven't talked about this on the television program, but we met over the internet in 1997 when only 20% of America was actually online.
We were still, you know,
I know, but we tend to think of ourselves as pretty technically savvy and early adopters of technology, and I'm not familiar with half of those social media apps that you just named.
Yeah, see, kids have changed how they do social media. Now, people think that they're not on Facebook, but quite frankly, some of our mega cases are on Facebook, but they jump back and forth. For instance, the biggest one is Kik, K-I-K, and you don't even need a phone number. You know, you can have a 9-year-old that doesn't have a cell phone that can have a Kik address. And the reason they're on Kik is because they can talk to a stranger. So back to my analogy or my story that was happening, what was the aha moment for me was all of a sudden I realized that we're in a time where there's an electronic chasm. We have a generation of kids who have never not known the internet. In fact, you know, their older brothers and sisters knew the internet. You guys have been on it. But they didn't have these devices 24/7. They believe that 87% of kids sleep with their phone. You know, in fact, I would tell you, everyone you know takes their phone to the bathroom with you, and 20% of them have lost it in the toilet, and I'm one of them, okay? But our lives changed somewhere back, and we just didn't realize. It's kind of like seeping up from the earth or something.
Yeah.
And so what has happened is that we're in a period of history where the kids have all the access, all the power, all the knowledge, and they have access to more information than any other generation ever in history. But they also have access to more people. The FBI will tell you there are more than 1 million predators online at any given time. Right now, there are 3.5 billion internet users. They're predicting that by 2020, the entire world will be connected by internet.
That's only 4 years away.
Only four. And so, you know, one of the challenges is, how do you parent in this scenario? Nothing ever prepared parents and grandparents for that. So as I began to work through all these cases and saw how predators work, I thought, we need to write a book to equip parents and grandparents on how to deal with this. So it's kind of a fascinating thing because grooming is how predators reach our kids. In fact, my book is called Seduce the Grooming of America's Teenagers. And most parents don't know or don't realize what grooming is. They may think that their child sees, you know, he's a creep and my kid will be smart and tell him to bug off and that'll be the end of it. But it doesn't work like that. You see, what happens is they'll get an instant message like a Kik message that we talked about. And I did a survey in California at a big high school there. And of 150 kids, 80% were on Kik. 80% had received a message from a total stranger. 50% replied to that total stranger, and 3 went out and met a total stranger. The reason why these kids are on Kik is they like to get a message from a stranger. So this guy will send something, and it's just like something cute and funny, and she's kind of being coy, you know, they're 13, they're 14, they're hormonal, you know, they're looking to meet up. So she says something coy back, and so then they text and they tweet, and they might share an Instagram or share YouTube, and maybe they meet on Facebook or maybe over on Pinterest, and pretty soon it's, hey, let's play Xbox. And so night after night they race home and they're talking to their new friend. And mom and dad are saying, hey, be careful now, don't talk to strangers on that. It's not a stranger.
Exactly. I know this person, they're really nice.
Yeah.
Oh.
I know.
And I think for many of us who were raised in the era where, you know, Officer Friendly would come to our first grade class and tell us to stay away from stranger danger, the idea of developing a relationship with someone over the internet is a little foreign. I mean, most people don't meet their spouse and stay happily, especially not stay happily married for 18 years over the internet. But the idea that our children are, we tend as parents to think that our children think like us and that they're going to have that radar out there that will alert them to things that don't feel right. What aspects of our teens and preteens personalities are these predators exploiting?
Well, quite frankly, they have a profile that they're looking at. These predators know exactly what they're doing. They're looking for somebody maybe with that's exploratory. They're really looking for somebody who's sexually active, you know, if you kind of put something out there, because you're easier to kind of lure in. It depends on whether they're looking to hook up to exploit you or to groom you to put you into prostitution. And believe it or not, that is the bulk of the ways that human trafficking is happening. In Southern California, most of our kids never ever thought of themselves as ending up in prostitution, but they get lured in, and then it all changes very quickly for them. So it can go either way, whether you have a predator who wants to personally violate them. But they're basically looking for kids who are naive, kids who will reach out to them, kids that'll start to give them information, kids that'll hook up, and the first thing they'll do is start to exchange pictures. Now, I'm going to tell you that human trafficking is a crime in psychology. Very seldom, I'm not going to say it doesn't happen, but a lot of people saw the movie Taken, I'm jealous. I'm waiting for Taken 13 to come out, Anyway, they made so much money off that, but very seldom do they actually go along and just grab a kid off the sidewalk. Now, I'm going to say it never happens, it does, but most of the time they get that kid to believe that they're a friend. And they do that by luring them in, and then they'll send them a naked photo. And it is worth it to talk to kids. I go into schools all the time. I train thousands, tens of thousands of kids now. If somebody sends you a photo, go tell somebody immediately. You are not the first person they sent it to. They're playing a game. They're looking for a sucker is what they're looking for, is somebody who will send one back. The minute you send that first photo, you are trapped. Because then they'll go, well, I didn't mean to, and I'm not going to send more. Well, I'll destroy you with this one. And that is how it usually works, is that they will start to work on this person until they begin to manipulate them, and where that child feels loyal to them. And one of the first things they do is try to get a wedge between you and the family. And that's called the grooming process. And if you're sensing that as a parent, one of the things that I advise you to do is, if you're seeing that your child is, starting to sneak out, starting to hide their phone from you. By the way, there's an app out there called the Calculator app. If you ever see that on your kid's phone, they're hiding something. They're not using it to add and subtract. That's how they hide other apps. And so that's a hint right there. But if they're being secretive, I talk to kids about this in school. In fact, I'd advise parents and grandparents to sit down and talk to your child about the difference between empowering love and exploitive love. We don't do that anymore. We just think love is love. Well, the way a predator grooms is based on love. In fact, I would like to add something, since you're a male, is one of the most powerful ways to combat this is to have a strong male role model in the family.
Amen.
Men have no idea their importance and their power.
Well, especially in this culture, because the message we keep hearing from the culture is that we're not important, is that we're not relevant to the family, and in fact, that's been reflected in statistics showing the number of children born out of wedlock in the United States, among all racial groups, ethnic groups, it has just exploded, especially since 1960.
But it's more than just an absent father physically. You can have a father in the home physically, but he's still absent.
But he's still absent, right. And again, the culture tells men that essentially we are extraneous, we're not there. And so we've got a generation of young men who are growing up to believe that their main role in the family is to work and then sit at home and play on the Xbox.
In working with kids, I can tell the ones that have fathers and which ones don't. And the bulk of our cases where a kid is actually groomed into prostitution, there is no father. Now, I think a lot of times fathers don't realize or understand what to do. You have this sweet little innocent thing, and all of a sudden she's 12 or 13, and her hair's turned pink, and her skirt's this long, and she's swearing like a sailor, and dad kind of turns to Jello and says, go see your mom, and mom's over here going, you go see your dad, and the two of you are looking at the little thing going, how did this thing happen, and that is really, really important to stop as parents and take inventory. Because I often think of the analogy, and actually it's not an analogy, it's a true story, but it sets an analogy of Jesus and the woman at the well. Men, when they see that situation, they just kind of want to look at the child and go, what in the heck are you thinking? What are you doing? And they just don't realize how judgmental that is. Because what that predator is out there going is, I'm sorry that you don't have a dad in your life. He doesn't know what he's missing. I'll take care of you. And as you get into this, you become in a tug of war. The most powerful thing that a man can do is to be able to learn 4 words and learn them early so that when you get in those tight moments, you're prepared and equipped. But the same 4 words every one of us want to hear. I believe in you. I mean, you know, that is what you want to hear. That's what I want to hear. That's what a foster kid wants to hear. You know, 60% of kids in prostitution come from foster care. That's because they have a hole in their heart as big as the sky. They don't have that anchor relationship. You talk about a mission for a church. And for parents, I believe that this generation provides the greatest mission field ever out there. And that is to start in the home and believe in your child. Start with the idea of grace and salvation in that child, in the home. Be able to look at them and say, you know what? I don't know what's gone on here. I hope it's not a naked photo, but if it is, God is going to forgive you, and I am going to forgive you, and we will get through this together. You know, it is time to talk about that grace. I think of Jesus and that woman and the woman at the well. It was the grace, the acceptance, and if there's ever a generation that needs grace, it's this generation of kids and this generation of parents, because if you haven't dealt with your own issues, if you haven't dealt with your own pornography, if you're cheating on your wife or your husband, if you're entering in that, you're role modeling. And don't believe these kids can't see.
Sure. Yeah.
They need grace, you need grace, and you need to be able to realize that this is the next generation at stake. And it's time to everybody stop and say, Lord, help us with this, and let's get our whole family back on track.
Amen to that. Yeah. A very wise evangelist I once heard told a men's conference that the family is the smallest battle formation in the spiritual war in which we are all deployed, whether we recognize it or not. And that's why the enemy spends so much time and effort and ingenious tactics to pull us apart. Our conversation with Opal Singleton continues. We'll discuss some concrete steps you can take to identify if this problem is happening in your home as Skywatch TV continues after this. Save nearly half off the cover price when you subscribe now to the brand new Skywatch TV magazine. For a limited time from April 24th through June 24th, 60 days only, a 5-year subscription to Skywatch TV magazine is just $99. That's more than $75 off the cover price, which is like getting 2 years for free. Exclusive content, articles on prophecy, discovery, and the supernatural from Tom Horn, Chris Putnam, Josh Peck, science updates from Sharon K. Gilbert, geopolitics from yours truly, and guest writers like Pulitzer Prize-nominated journalist Troy Anderson, renowned Bible scholar Dr. Michael Heiser, Pentagon advisor Lieutenant Colonel Bob McGinnis, and more. But there is more. As an early subscriber, you'll be the first to get this new book from Defender Publishing. I predict what 12 global experts believe you'll see by 2025. This is a $20 value and includes best-selling authors like Joel Richardson, Mark Biltz, Carl Gallups, Tom Horn, Paul McGuire, and more. Find out what they think about the coming war between ISIS and the Vatican, the future of the Temple Mount and the Ark of the Covenant, a worldwide manifestation of angels, and the coming age of human hybrids. And we'll also add this DVD, The Best of Skywatch TV 2015, a $25 value, including our most compelling interviews from last year, including Chuck Missler, Steve Quayle, the discussion of the Georgia Guidestones with Chris Pinto, and more. All of this together worth more than $200, yours now for just $99, but only through June 24th. Subscribe now, Skywatch TV Magazine. Just call the number on your screen or log on to skywatchtvstore.com. Welcome back to Skywatch TV. I'm Derek Gilbert in studio with Sharon Gilbert and our guest, Opal Singleton of MillionKids.org. She's the author of the book, Seduced, The Grooming of America's Teenagers. Take a moment, log on to skywatchtv.com. We've got a number of programs that are available as web exclusives, including a couple of interviews with Opal, both in our daily news updates and as our forthcoming Skywatch Women's program. Again, you'll find links to those at our website, skywatchtv.com. Opal, this is really disturbing because it is so invasive. I don't think there's a home in America where the internet is not available, and if the internet isn't there, then it's available through a high-speed phone connection.
Right.
How do we recognize, first of all, the tools that the predators will use on the phones or tablets of our children, and then how do we recognize if our kids or grandkids may have been pulled into something that they don't want to tell us about?
That's a good question.
Well, first of all, their behavior will change. First of all, they become secretive. I want you to know that there's nothing wrong with a parent checking a phone. You bought that phone for them, most likely, and you have a right to check that phone. Number two is if you saw your child standing on a train track and there's a speeding train coming, you're going to push your child off. But the way to handle this, and what my book is all about, is to recognize that this is really a unique time in history. It's never been there before. You know, as parents, you have nothing to prepare you for this. And as kids, they really have no preparation either. So the idea of the book is to get the parents and the kids to sit down and talk together. Get them to educate you. The whole idea is that prepare your kids to become strong moral leaders on these subjects, and to recognize that the internet, while it has a huge amount of possibilities, it's going to need leadership. I mean, you know, how we approach this as parents, I guess I'm prejudiced because I sit with so many kids, but I am past the point of raising happy little children, especially out in Southern California, what you see in the name of raising happy little children. Mm-hmm. This is a spiritual battleground we're on here. You know, you and I were talking earlier. In a way, it's almost a technology Armageddon, because it's never been there before. And so sit with your child. Now, if your child is being violated, or if they're into this, they will change their behavior. They'll shut down. They won't be able to relate to you. They won't be able to tell you that they're being violated.
You talked earlier about that, but you mentioned that there's a big difference between boys and girls.
Yes, guys actually shut down, and they just simply have no way to tell you.
They get sullen.
They get sullen, and you know, they're. I mean, think about it. The whole male thing is, I'm the protector.
I'm in control.
But I've been violated, and I have no natural way to say that. Girls, a lot of times, what they'll do is cut, and they'll become traumatic. They'll start crying. Everything's a blow up. But guys, they'll get real quiet. And a lot of times they can't go to school, they can't sleep, and like that. So their behavior will change. And the other thing that you'll see is they'll be very secretive. And that's a hint on just how much they're being controlled about this. This is exactly what predators will do, is that they will set this up so that the child begins to sneak out and begin to have dialogues. You'll walk into the room, they'll stop what they're doing. You know, at that point, I would simply say, you know, this is our phone. This isn't your phone. And I'm going to look at this phone, you know, and if it looks like there's nothing going on, I would reward that. It's very, very important to reward this behavior if they do it right. I was sharing with you a case earlier about a girl who gave away her home address, and then all of a sudden these people showed up at her house, and mom intercepted with the deal. And what happened is the girl hid in the house, and mom stayed outside. But mom handled this well, because she said, you know, I'm not crazy about your first two decisions, but I'm so proud that you trusted me. And that's really, really important, to develop that technology trust. I did a survey at a church a while back, and it was interesting. I said, does your mom and dad check your phone? Yeah. Are you okay with that? Yeah. Every one of them? Yeah. Why? Well, because, you know, I want them to trust me. Except one kid said, because I trust my mom and dad. And I just thought that was so powerful, that you need to be able to sit down and go, you know, this is all new territory. It's new territory for you and new territory for me. And I don't want to be an ogre. You know, I don't want to be no. But you know what? No predator's taking my most important thing in my whole life. Let me tell you, that's something else you can do, is let that child know how important they are to you. We get really busy, and then when they're 12, 13, 14, and they're going and starting their independence, it's a natural process, but it becomes a real tug of war all the time. I often say, stop by a dollar store and get a little kid's jigsaw puzzle with the great big pieces. And I don't care if your kid's 20 years old and 6 feet tall, sit down with them and take the middle piece out of that puzzle and say, see this hole? This is my life without you in it. You have no idea how important you are to your mother and I, and how valuable you are. And there will be people who will come along and want to separate you and me. But I want you to know, I hope nothing ever happens to you, but I'm going to tell you right now, if it ever did, I would turn heaven and to find you, okay? You are the most important thing in our life. And I'm so proud of you, and I'm proud to be your dad, and your mom's proud to be your mom. And I know we have our conflicts. You're growing into an individual, and some of it works and some of it don't. That's normal, but we're going to love you anyway.
You know, this isn't very politically correct, talking about return to discussions of grace and salvation and a discussion of the importance of a strong father figure
Right.
in the home. This is not the message that our culture wants to send.
Yeah. But it's the needed message.
Yeah, and it's the way God designed our families right from the very beginning. We're going to tell you how you can get a copy of Opal's book. This is an important addition to your reference library and important information for those of us who didn't grow up with the internet and have had to learn to adopt to it or adapt our lives to it. And now we're struggling to keep up with our kids as they're way beyond anything that we're used to using on the internet. Seduce: The Grooming of America's Teens. We'll add as a bonus, when you order from Skywatch TV through the Skywatch TV store, the book Survive the Unthinkable, The Woman's Total Guide to Preparedness. And we'll also add a beautiful journal. Wow. This alone is a $20 value. Altogether, these three items, a $50 value. But when you order from the Skywatch TV store, $29.99 plus shipping and handling. Again, Seduced: The Grooming of America's Teenagers. Be educated, because we are behind the curve, our generation. Order, by the way, by calling the number on your screen or going online to skywatchtvstore.com. We just have about a minute left, Opal. How has the change in America's family, and this may be a 30-minute answer, but if you can try to give us in a minute, and the de-emphasis of God's design for the nuclear family, mother, father, children, how has that helped facilitate the spread of this type of exploitation?
Well, a lot of it's just because the family is fragmented. I mean, go watch a family when they go out to dinner. The four of them are sitting there together, each in their own world.
Yeah,
you
they're
know,
all on their
I mean,
phones.
you know, we don't have the idea of raising a strong family that is focused on not only morality, but you know, spiritual understanding the glory of God. We become very isolated, very individualized, and that is what is giving a child so much latitude, so much freedom to go their own way. And so it's like family and parenting is fragmented at this point and really lost its effectiveness. Now, quite frankly, this is the first generation, not only of kids, but the generation of parents and grandparents. And I think it is a powerful call from God. You know, we'll talk about this on gaming, but God has given me this line that just drives me on. We have laid our children at the altar of other gods. You know, when we hand a child a video game in the world of the occult and sorcery and sex and pornography, and we go, it's just a game, and you walk right past that kid, and then you go, we got to go to church on Sunday, and he's going, no, I can't because I need my score. I mean, right there is enough of a visual to show how this is going very wrong.
Opal Singleton is the president and CEO of MillionKids.org. That is also the website. Next week, we will talk about video games and how they're being used by predators and some concrete steps and training available for churches so we can stand in the gap to stop this destruction of God's design for the family and for humanity. For Sharon Gilbert, I'm Derek Gilbert. We thank you for watching as we keep watch. This is Skywatch TV.